What's going on, everybody? This is Daniel Harms here at the RGR Football Channel. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about a position, free agent, draft, whatever it may be, a place that everyone wants to address, whether it's Brett Veach, whether it's fans, whether it's analysts. All of us know that a talent injection is needed at this spot, and it's been an area that Brett Veach has named multiple times as some place they will always look to add talent whenever they can, and that's the wide receiver position. Tyreek Hill is going to get his extension this offseason. I almost 100% expect him to. I don't expect that to be a hometown discount type they got last time, excuse me, because he has balled out and he doesn't have anything hanging over his head that's just say unbecoming of him. So there's not going to be any issues in that department with money. He's going to get a lot of money. He's probably going to approach close to 17, 18, 19 million dollars a year when it's all said and done. We're going to see obviously the details of that, what it ends up being, but maybe he wants to take a little bit less to help this team fill out the rest of the roster. Regardless of what it is, the part of this roster that's going to need to be addressed on the offensive side, probably more so than anywhere else, is wide receiver. I personally believe that you can get a Byron Pringle back for about $3 million a year. That's about what his market value will be. 28 years old, and in my opinion, playing much better than a Demarcus Robinson. And you still have McCall Hardman under contract. So I think Demarcus Robinson, who's actually a year younger than Pringle, will no longer be on the team next year. But as Andy always does, he could possibly bring him back because that's just what he does. And that's just the kind of thing that this team likes. They like to have familiarity. They like to have players they trust and can count on. They don't necessarily like to always bring in free agent guys. And you also have to remember that Josh Gordon does have a futures contract with this team. He's on the practice squad this past season. Also, Cornell Powell is going to be back next year as well, who I think can make a push for this roster, and obviously Doris Fountain as well. So there's still some bottom level talent that's going to be on this team. Whether Josh Gordon can become anything more than what we saw down the stretch this past year, we're not going to really know. But let's dig into the free agent wide receiver market, because there's going to be at least one name, whether it's a guy you don't necessarily expect to be added to this roster come March, or it's going to be through the draft. They're going to address the wide receiver 2/3/4 position one way, shape, or form, whether it's free agent, whether it's draft. And a lot of people want to have a big name wide receiver next to Tyreek Hill to be able to open everything up, aside from running the ball and taking advantage of those looks that they're going to get. But that's neither here nor there. So let's just start at the top, because this is where everyone wants to look, and we'll get into some of the other guys later. But the big name, I think we're all kind of assuming we're looking at based on age, based on, his talent level, based on what he's going to earn over the course of the next few years. I think Chris Godwin's the biggest name that pops out of the top maybe 5 or 6 wide receivers listed, because he's going to be 26 when the next season starts. He's not going to be close to 29. He's not going to be in his 30s, and he's going to have a lot of time still to develop. I know that he was with Tampa Bay, one of probably the best receiving groups in the NFL over there when they had Antonio Brown, and he wasn't being insane the 3 months they got out of him for not being crazy. But he was the most talented wide receiver on that roster when he was healthy. Obviously, you suffer a injury at the end of the season that might bring his value down a little bit, but I don't think that's really going to happen. If we can pull up the spot track here and really can kind of see what his market value is based on his age, other players that have signed contracts at that time similarly, and about $18.1 million is what it's looking at. That's for a high-level young wide receiver that you want to bring in aside Tyreek Hill. That's what's going to cost the team. That's a lot of money. I don't expect them to be doing that. The other comparable contracts, Keenan Allen, Tyreek Hill, Amari Cooper, and Adam Thielen, all around the $16 to $20 million range for a 4-year contract, and they were 25 to 28 when they signed. They have things they have to do, okay? I like Chris Godwin. I actually think he's one of the top 10 receivers in the NFL. When he's healthy and when he's playing, he's an excellent player. I don't expect the Chiefs to be looking to do that with a $20 million player on one side and bring in almost another one on the other. I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're also looking in the same situations with Allen Robinson, with Devontae Adams, who's even going to command more, probably around 30 is what we've assumed from him. There's going to be quite a bit of wide receiver money at the top there, especially when you already have Tyreek Hill, who's going to get his extension, I believe. Like I said, this offseason, I don't think they're going to want to bring in two $18+ million wide receivers to this team. There's money that needs to be spent elsewhere, and specifically, if they've talked as much as Brett Veach has alluded to, the defense is going to need an injection, possibly of bringing Tyrann Mathieu back, finding a way to get a free agent defensive end maybe. You need money to be able to do both of those things, and $18 million on a wide receiver when you're going to be spending $18 million on another one just isn't going to do it. Not for me. I would love if they can find a way to get somebody cheaper, but that's not going to happen at the top there with Allen Robinson, Godwin, Adams, and those kind of players. It's just not really in their best interest, and feasibly, it's not the best option, especially when you have other players like a Juju Smith-Schuster, who just signed an $8 million deal with the Steelers this past offseason. And, he had some injuries. He came back at the end of the season. It's going to lower his number a little bit more. He's 25, going to be 26 when when the end of the season goes. So maybe you sign him to a one-year deal, see what he has. Personally, I think that's a great option for this team as a wide receiver who is young, talented, and has played as a number one on a team with an emerging number one in Deontay Johnson and now Chase Claypool. He knows the dynamics of having two wide receivers opposite him, or in this case, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And I think that as long as he gets that TikTok stuff under control and doesn't do it here, considering the Chiefs have some issues with that already, I think that would be the best situation for him. Get him in Kansas City, find a way to use him all over the field because that's what they can do. And I think that's the best situation for them. It's the best situation for Juju. Some other names that really jump out to me, specifically, Mike Williams is a younger player, 27. He's probably going to command a little bit more, maybe closer to the $10 million range a year because he was an emerging player. I believe that the Chargers are going to ultimately keep him, but still an unrestricted free agent. I'll be only looking at unrestricted free agents to be actually. Where'd you go? All types. UDFA. All right. Yeah, UFAs, unrestricted free agents. Boom. Yeah, so we got Will Fuller is a guy too. Just kind of made a glass a little bit too much like Sammy Watkins, who I've seen people talk about again creeping up. He's had a $1.5 million deal in Baltimore. I don't see the Chiefs bringing him back, specifically because his hamstrings just can't hold up anymore. He's pretty much done at this point in terms of having a season without injuries. That's just not going to happen. So you're signing him, and he's not going to play all season. I wouldn't do it at this point. I love Sammy, just don't really see it being an option. Another name that is interesting is Albert Wilson, he's going to be 30, but Albert Wilson's a true slot receiver in my opinion. That's what he is. That's something that this team has actually kind of missed a little bit. He still has the speed element, and it would be interesting to see him back in this team where Patrick Mahomes got him his contract in Miami. So that would be a very interesting turn of events to see him come back and play with Patrick Mahomes, the guy who got him his contract. I actually would like to see that. Obviously, you have Pringle and Demarcus Robinson. We talked a little bit about them already. Josh Reynolds, I think that Detroit's going to try to bring him back, but he's also an option if he stays on the market. The same with a Christian Kirk, who's 25, 20, and 26 by the end of next year. Another player, I think that him and Josh Reynolds, in terms of coming back to their teams, is probably what's going to happen. But these are all options if you can get them. I don't think that it's going to take too much to get a Christian Kirk. Like, he's a good receiver, a good young receiver. He made $1.5 million last year. You throw 5 maybe at him. You can look at some of these things. But there's one guy who, if we're talking about true slot receivers, that does, catch my name a little bit more than I would have anticipated. And where'd he go? I don't really see him on the list. That's unfortunate. But I really do think that an Albert Wilson is a kind of player you're looking at in terms of getting production and finding just a true slot player. I think that Juju Smith-Schuster has that upside as well, but he can also play on the outside. So you're bringing in a guy who has, versatility. There he is. Jameson Crowder from the Jets. He's younger than I thought he was. He'll be 29. He turned 29, but again, he's a true slot receiver. That's what he is in the NFL, right? Especially at this point in his career. I think that you're looking at some of these players that you can get on a discount with Crowder, with Schuster, with Albert Wilson. Some of these guys that you're looking at free agents. I think that you definitely have some flexibility there. the draft is a whole nother option. I've already did my video last week on Chris Olave. If you guys missed that, go check it out. There's a film review on Chris Olave, a guy who they could draft at number 30, 29 area. Definitely is someplace I expect the Chiefs to address if they don't address it in free agency. If they look to bring back their guys, then I expect the draft to be where they head. And if not, that tells you what they really think about their wide receiver group. But I do expect there to be some additions at wide receiver. Again, talking a bit about the guys at top. If they find themselves with an influx of money, if they drop a couple of the guys that are pretty much dead weight, and Anthony Hitchens and Frank Clark that I think that won't be back, or Frank Clark restructures, completely gives most of his money back and signs a small money deal, then you could maybe bring in a Chris Godwin. If you want to backload contracts like that, and if they're willing to backload contracts like that and maybe take a little bit less to play in Kansas City. We haven't seen that be the case. I know everyone's talked about how, they could take less to play with Patrick Mahomes. In this day and age with the cap going up the way that it is, I don't see that being a possibility. So some of these guys with the Will Fullers and some of the injury plague guys, I would imagine Kansas City stays away from. And personally, when it comes to the top guys, if I had to pick one of the top 4 guys in, Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, Davante Adams, and I personally would put Mike Williams in that upper echelon. For me, those top 4 guys, I'd pick Godwin in a heartbeat, and I wouldn't even look back. So, I want to hear you guys. Who do you want from this free agent wide receiver group? Ultimately, what this comes down to, I don't care about the money when I ask for your opinion. The one guy that you want, I not named Davante Adams because he's the best receiver in the NFL, and I don't expect him to be in Kansas City next year. But give me the guy that you want on this list that's not Davante Adams on the Kansas City Chiefs that you think can have the best opportunity to really excel here and might be able to stay here a little bit long term. And I want to know. I just want to know that, or a guy you want to draft. That way I can look forward to breaking down their film a little bit this offseason. So again, I hope you guys getting some out of this, some names. Again, if you guys want the full list of NFL free agents, it's on Spot Track. Just kind of Google it, and it gives you all of them. You can decipher it and break it down by wide receiver, by group, by unrestricted free agents, by restricted free agents, all this kind of stuff. So make sure you guys are hitting that like, the bell, and the sub. And Ryan and I are going to have continued progress throughout the entire offseason draft, free agents, all of this stuff broken down, more film reviews, more breakdowns. I hope you guys are ready for it. And unfortunately, it's a little bit earlier than we wanted. But again, that's part of watching the NFL. And I still expect the Chiefs to be here in this point next year and then the year after that. So just try to keep it on a positive note. I do promise I will have a rant for you guys this week. I finally have calmed down enough that I think I can let some of this out. So be looking forward to that. Whether it's this week or next week, that will be for the members. Again, you guys have a great day and go Chiefs.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.